Dear subscribers, as you know, we shared many information for you, and we are studying very hard to find current news for you. However, I cannot use this channel for future. Please follow our new channel called as Daily News Report and watch our video to support us. Link in description. Also, you can reach the video we shared on Daily News Report by clicking on the top right button. We highly recommend watching, subscribing and sharing. We will continue to share some news on this channel where we take precautions against some situations for future. Thank you for supporting us.
Will be very much central to the gold trade note, which kills the dollar and the treasury bill for a trade payment potential.
Our mission at SD Bullion is clear: the lowest cost gold and silver available online. While we do not have pretty blue boxes, free shipping on every order, or glamorous gold and silver infomercials, SD Bullion has the lowest prices that may save you hundreds on your next order. So before you make your next investment, do the math and join the over 40,000 new customers who have recently made the switch to SD Bullion. Why pay more?
Hey everyone, this is Elijah Johnson with SilverDoctors.com.
And back with us today is Dr. Jim Willie, editor of the Hattrick Letter found on GoldenJackass.com. Jim, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure being here. I have to caution people that I'm getting over a pretty nasty flu with some lung congestion and problems there, a lot of coughing. And please bear with me. There'll be some breaks where I have to cough, and that's the way it is right now, and I'm trying to get over this. It's been over a week.
I had viewers submit questions today, and the first couple viewers' questions are on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, because we've seen them people just piling into Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies recently. Bitcoin, around all-time highs. And this viewer is wanting to know if you agree with Rob Kirby that the strong increase in cryptocurrencies and, the rush into Bitcoin represents the final demise of fiat currencies, particularly the dollar.
Yes, I do. I agree with that assessment. I don't think that adequately summarizes all of Rob's thoughts on that matter. Let me add to his point. To begin with, the Bitcoin seems to be the flagship that is running front and center among all the cryptocurrencies. It uses the blockchain encryption technology, which I believe will become more important in other ways. Now, I mean more important than funds transactions, funds movement. But the blockchain is going to become extremely important for business-to-business communications. Like, for instance, I'll get back to Rob's point, but this is a very important issue, the blockchain. If companies want to send, say, schematics on a product design, or rather detailed description of characteristics of a new product, this is very sensitive, and they will do it with the encryption of blockchain. If they want to send to another company, like interested in an acquisition, a lot of information, say for future strategy, 1-year plan and 3-year plan. It's very sensitive, and they'll transmit it by means of blockchain. If they want to send other information like, say, stock options and planned personnel changes, planned contracts for consultants, and other sensitive information, one company to another, they'll use blockchain. If they want to move across, say, titles for property and bids and things like that, the plot plans of properties, whether they're small or large, they'll be doing it with blockchain. So we're moving now to an area where not just sensitive funds movement to be done in a secure way, like with Bitcoin, it'll be for a movement of very important, kind of classified information at the corporate level. Okay, when Rob mentions that this is the final step, final phase for the dollar, I agree completely. And almost everybody on my little jackass gang of colleagues feels pretty much the same way. But there's more to this. I've got some problems with the Bitcoin and the cryptos. Here's my biggest problem, Elijah, and that is, what is the actual step? What is the procedure for creating, say, a Bitcoin? I'm not really sure about that. I also wonder, what is the exact type of unit for a Bitcoin? What is it? And all I can comprehend is that it's a unit of electronic work. But it seems to be paid in paper fiat currency, like a dollar. Okay, so why is this seeming closed-end fund running up so much? It's because it's got limited supply, for which I don't comprehend fully, and rising demand, which is pushing its price up. All right, here's the big question for the day regarding cryptos. Are the powers that be, like the Wall Street banks and central banks, London banks, and key Western European banks, are they making an agreement to let Bitcoin and others rise so that they will be vulnerable? Because one question I keep having a great deal of difficulty getting a good answer for is, what's the relationship between Bitcoin and gold? And all I can comprehend is none. None at all. So I don't know how it's mined, I don't know how the supply comes, and I don't know what its basis is, and I know it's not related to gold. So what the hell is it? I don't know exactly. I'm honest about this. So I don't know what this is exactly all about, except that it seems like, given its closed-end nature, like a closed-end fund, the powers that be might be allowing it to rise so that they can slam it and smash it with the first introduction of a gold-backed cryptocurrency. China's talking about it. The Fed is talking about it with, I think, FedCoin. I'm not exactly sure about the gold basis of that. And there are other entries that might become gold-backed. So, if they let the Bitcoin group go up, and then there's an introduction of a gold-backed Bitcoin type, I think we're going to see a rather significant decline in the crypto values. And I'm not really sure how the value of a crypto is determined. So we're dealing with, very murky, competitive type of currency, which has secure transferability. One of the biggest things the central bank crowd hates about Bitcoin is its transferability across international lines, completely out of the purview of the banking system, of SWIFT, and the Federal Reserve monitoring of such. So we've got the evolution and development of something that's very counteractive to the currency system right now. And they don't like it a bit. Not play on words for Bitcoin, but they don't like it at all. It's out of their control. So I think they're going to try to smash it somehow. But I think they're going to fail. The big event coming is introduction of gold-backed cryptocurrencies, where there will no longer be a question, well, what is its unit of value? And you won't say a unit of electronic work. You'll say it's a gold coin with some associated work related to that. The Voice has an opinion on this. He's kind of old school when it comes to money. He believes in gold and not in paper. But Bitcoin is it's taking the world by storm, and it's not a phony unit, and it's a very reliable transferability method. But the voice believes very clearly that blockchain technology, which is the gut of Bitcoin, will be very much central to the gold trade note, which kills the dollar and the treasury bill for a trade payment potential. That's how important this is going to be when you get your first entry of a gold-backed cryptocurrency. It can then be immediately used in trade payment. And that's when the treasury bill will just go to the wayside. And it'll grow and grow and grow because they'll know that the unit of payment is real, whereas the unit of a treasury bill is bullshit. The US and the Fed are printing, I believe, very firmly, $3 to $10 trillion a month. Not the advertised 40, 60, 80 billion a month. They're printing tremendous amounts in the trillions every month to cover their derivative books, to make sure the interest rate swap derivative is active and prevents a treasury bond default, because there are almost no buyers. And there's $1 trillion to maybe $1.5 trillion every year due for federal deficit and trade deficit. The public numbers on central bank participation for QE, they're absolute nonsense and lies. They're off by a factor of 10, 15, or 20. So I'm looking forward, going to transition here slightly, I'm looking forward to the day when we get some gold backing for cryptos, because that will sort out the mom and pop cryptos from the legitimate ones. And I'm coming to learn from some of my minor study that one of the biggest issues regarding a valid cryptocurrency is its efficiency in usage, and they're not all the same. Some might have half the amount of energy, consumed or used in order to facilitate from end to end, point to point, a transaction. And the ones that do it more efficiently are going to be the winners. It's kind of try to think of it in terms of a radical new vehicle. You could think of a nifty new kind of truck, or don't worry about its power system. But the issue is how much energy is required to get, say, from San Francisco to Los Angeles. How much energy is required to go from New York to London? Okay, with this new kind of vehicle that doesn't have wheels. Okay? If one crypto uses half the amount of energy to cross the Atlantic Ocean, it's going to tend to win in the bigger battles that come, that are important, because their fees might be lower. So right now, if you get a dollar transfer from New York to a London bank, it's a certain pricing structure for making the move, making the transfer, completing it. Well, if certain other transfer mechanisms are more efficient, maybe their cost will be half as much. If it's half as much, it's going to be a winner, because it's going to bring about lower transfer costs for its users.
Before we move off of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, this viewer is wanting to know, do you think central banks will decide to confiscate Bitcoin accounts and other cryptocurrencies in the future economic collapse as an alternative to bank account bail-ins and confiscation of gold and silver? Could a cryptocurrency confiscation be touted by governments as a pretext to an effective solution for abating terrorists, black market, and illegal transaction activity?
Whenever I hear the question or the threat of confiscation, I immediately react in the same way. Whether it's about confiscation of gold, confiscation of weapons, confiscation of silver, whatever. Can they confiscate? Could they really? I don't think so. If they could have confiscated gold coins and silver coins, would they not have done so already? do they not confiscate weapons, guns, rifles, ammunition? Do they not confiscate these because they can't? Because they don't want the reaction, which might be police being shot dead from rooftops? I believe they don't confiscate because they cannot. I don't think Bitcoin can be confiscated. Furthermore, I think the chances of confiscating gold are 10 times greater than confiscating Bitcoin. Let me put that the other way around. It is 10 times more difficult to confiscate Bitcoins than confiscating gold and silver coins. They won't do it because they can't. I'm not even sure what it means to confiscate a Bitcoin. Won't it just move to another location? Bitcoin is like, an armada of cockroaches that these son of a bitch bankers cannot control. So don't worry about confiscation of Bitcoin. Be more concerned about chemtrails, GMO foods, contaminated water, laced atmosphere with viruses. That should be your concern. I'm wondering if this virus that I'm having difficulty getting rid of for the last 10 days, I'm wondering if it's from some stinking ass chemtrail. I'm not worried about them confiscating my Bitcoins. I'm more worried about them killing us from the air and the water. I hope my passion answers partly the question. You're concerned about the wrong things. You should be concerned about what you're drinking in your water and the bullshit they're putting in your food chain. They can't touch Bitcoin. Why do you think Fedcoin is going to be a possible alternative? Because they can't remove it. So they're going to join it and try to contaminate the good ones. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. As soon as you get a gold-backed Bitcoin, gold-backed cryptocurrency, just start the countdown. It's game over. So, I think Bitcoin is serving something as a proxy for currency in a very constructive manner. But once it turns into a gold-backed crypto, the entire game changes. If Russia and China came out with a gold-backed currency, the yuan and ruble, you think that would have an effect on the dollar? Hell yeah! So when there's a gold-backed cryptocurrency being launched, or 8 of them, one from every continent, you think it'll have an effect on the shabby cryptos? Yeah, but it's going to be worse than that. It's going to be an effect on all the paper Forex currencies, because we're not in the infancy stage of Bitcoin anymore. We're in the adolescent stage. It becomes adult hour when the gold backing is introduced. That's what I call game over. I mean, we got so many situations, Elijah, that are game over. I mean, just add to the mix the Russians and Chinese with respect to the Gulf Arabs, and pricing of oil and payment methods for oil. This is getting very dangerous right now for the dollar's, primary role among the currencies. And all the wars just make the integrity of the dollar all that much lower. The dollar's not supported by military so much. It's supported by aggressive military action with war crimes. And that's a very tenuous situation for a global reserve currency. I'm actually hearing that deals were struck a year or two ago for the dollar to be phased out as the global currency reserve. Deals that the U.S. government signed on and never told anybody about. So these are dangerous end games we're involved in right now.
I'd like to move on to this next viewer's question, which is about the dollar. You've said in the past that you see the dollar rising and rising and then rising more and then finally collapsing. This viewer is wanting to know why then right now is the dollar declining? It seems like that's going against what you had said before.
Okay, let me be straight. I have said this 20 times, and I have been misquoted 20 times. I have said the following 20 times. The dollar will rise, then rise some more, then vanish. I have never said it will decline. It will vanish. It will not decline. So when you're seeing the current situation with the dollar index going down and going below certain critical support levels, I attribute this to one and only one thing: the stolen French election and the relief rally on the euro. Take a look at the components for the dollar index. It's about 52%, I don't know exactly, 56%, right in there, the euro. It's a 30-year-old calculation that's anachronistic as possibly can be. So when the dollar's going down, it means the euro's going up. There was a lot of shorting for the euro currency going into the French election. There was other shorting going into the Brexit referendum. The French election was essentially a referendum on the French exit. So they had someone who was in favor of staying in the Union versus Le Pen, whose votes were torn up largely, and fake votes were put in for Macron. It's Macron, but let's just call it Macron so people know what I'm talking about. French was my second language. I actually got a junior year French award in high school out of 200 kids. So the way you pronounce it is Emmanuel Macron. Okay, Macron won the rigged, farcical, corrupt election. Just as a quick aside, about 500,000 fake votes were just put in without any voter involved. They were just put in there as ballots with a check mark for Macron. Okay, we got those votes. They were all stolen. They tore up something like 30 or 40%, damaged the ballots for Marine Le Pen, and no one seems to give a shit. So they stole it fair and square. That's the old American phrase. When the election was declared a victory for Macron, the euro started rising and all the shorts started to cover. In response, the dollar index went down. So it's the DX dollar index is, in my opinion, nothing more than an anti-euro index. So let's see what comes next. When the euro levels off and the short covering is finished, you're likely to see the dollar have a bounce. I have never said it will decline in a big way like a crash. Just take a look at some of the past YouTubes. I have never said it's going to crash. On 10 different occasions, I've corrected people who have misquoted me, and they continue to misquote me because I don't think they understand the concept of vanishing. It vanishes, the dollar, in trade payment methods when, say, the gold trade note comes into play. It takes severe lumps in its integrity, the dollar that is, when the gold-backed cryptos come to the table. That's how it vanishes. It doesn't decline, it vanishes, it goes away. The whole East Hemisphere will declare we're not using the dollar for our banking reserves anymore. The dollar is not a legitimate global currency reserve, which means two things. Not going to be used in banking core assets, not going to be used for trade payments. Now, I get some flack once in a while, like yesterday, some guy called me an idiot in my contact us box. And, you know, like a brave soul, he puts no return email or a phony email address. But he said, Jim, you don't know shit. Trade payments are not done in treasury bills. They're done in letters of credit. And of course, letters of credit written in the dollar paid with treasury bills. You know, I can't even reply to these idiots because they misquote me, they say something stupid, and they don't put a return email. I hope that answers the question. It's going to be a very strange sequence of events when the dollar loses its global currency reserve status, and that means in trade and banking, it suffers the loss, which means if a country wants to buy a tanker of crude oil like China, they're going to pay in RMB, or they're going to pay in, that's their currency, Chinese currency, or they're going to pay in another clever form like a gold trade note with a gold backing of a cryptocurrency. That means the dollar is just pushed to the side. Now, yeah, there might be some decline involved in that, but I think it's just going to stop being used by a large section of the globe, of many, many different nations within the community of nations. They're not going to use it. Now, turn to the banking. If they don't want to use the treasury bond anymore in their banking reserves, you know, their capital reserves and maintaining the ratios and all this stuff with the, you know, credit extended within a country's economy by their central bank, they're going to dump their treasuries and buy gold. Okay, that could bring about some decline in the dollar, but I believe what you're going to see in the next, I don't know how many years, a couple of years, half a year, I don't know, 2.5 years, I don't know if they're going to create a few more new wars to defend the dollar, complete with war crimes, as we always do. But I'm guessing that the Federal Reserve and the Department of Treasury are going to lap them up. Whatever's dumped, they're going to lap them up to try to maintain the value of the dollar, and they're going to eventually be overwhelmed, and they're going to say, we're not going to even post the dollar price anymore. It's all going to be done in the background. If you people across the world don't want to use treasury bonds as your core reserves for banking, then we'll do these private deals. There'll be some discounting, and we're not going to report the dollar's value anymore. We're not going to report the treasury bonds value anymore. That's what I mean by vanish.
Definitely, and I realized actually that was my fault there. I was the idiot there. I misinterpreted the question, and the viewer actually did say, why is it not going higher before it vanished? So I was the one who misphrased the question.
Oh, that's okay, Elijah. Don't worry about it, because 90% of the people who bring about that quote from my work don't quote it correctly.
Right, and it is an important distinction there between just vanishing, going away, and actually declining. So yeah. I really do appreciate the clarification there. Now moving on here to precious metals,